Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. And, of course, this morning we have talk champion Cleo Duke-Wright in the house. Good morning, Miss Cleo. How are you?
Oh, good, Stan. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
How was your week? I'll ask you first this time.
Oh, you got me. Beat me to the punch,
Beat
huh?
you to the punch. How was your week?
I had a good week. Busy week.
Good.
Week, but it was a good week. Yeah.
Same
Good
here.
week.
Went back to work this Monday, so I have a lot more working hours, so it's been a very busy week.
All right. So now you say you have a lot more working hours? What did
Yes.
you increase your hours?
Yeah, I'm off for the summer. I did work a few hours in the summertime, and then school starts. I start up again. So I'm up and running.
All right. Got any plans for the weekend?
No, not too many. Just kind of relaxing and just doing my own thing. Trying to get a couple hours by myself, and that's it. That's it. If I relax, I'll be all set for Monday.
Oh, all right. All right. So work. The summer's over, and work has re-engaged.
Yep. Yes, it has.
For you. So your next big time off is over the holiday or like next summer?
Well, summer, you got Christmas and Thanksgiving. I have all the school holidays, so I have those days, and then there's summer. By June, I'm really tired, and I say, well, I don't think I'm going to do another year. And the year comes around, and there I am again, working. You say, well, what are you going to do? All I'll be doing is running around, doing things for other people if I don't work. So I might as well go to work.
Oh, okay. I got you. So it's either stay home and work or go to work and work.
Right. Work is the word, right?
I noticed in the background the chips. Our house is a house of snacks, as you know. And if you don't bring your snacks, I had to bring my snacks in the office.
Yes,
otherwise, the snack we have snack goblins here. They see a bag of chips, Fritos, whatever. You go in the kitchen and they're being consumed in front of you. And I have daughters, so what can you say?
Oh, that's because this family doesn't have a weight problem. That's the only reason you do that. I can't do that in my house. That would be just absolutely horrible. I tried a little of that this summer, beginning of the summer, and I blew up a little bit. So a doctor friend had a really strong talk with me.
Oh, doctor.
Doctor had a...
Yeah, he has a propensity for strong talk.
Yes.
To say it mildly.
Yes, he does. But I'm getting used to him now. I just talk right up. Before I would just look at him and say, oh, my God. Shall I say anything? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He graduated from the School of Advanced Bedside Manner.
Yes.
Yeah, the hard truth. The School of Hard Truth.
The hard truth. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm saving your life. What do you want to do, live or die? I said, oh, God.
Yeah, that kind of cuts right to the chase. I'm not gonna mince words here. You're dying. You want to live? Listen to me. Otherwise, I can leave and just let you go and live in your misery.
I'm trying to set you free. Yeah. Well. Oh, I'm used to it. And but he really is a great man, and I pay attention to him and I listen to him very closely. I don't do exactly because I disappear, but I do. I really listen and take his advice.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it is, of course, Friday. And usually on Fridays, what we do is we just have light banter. We talk back and forth. Every once in a while, we have a guest. And today is, of course, one of those days that we do have a guest joining us via remote access, right? Via Zoom. The miracle of Zoom and how much it has become a common part of our landscape. And so today we'll talk a little bit about business. We have a special guest joining us from the Small Business Administration. And so we will join her right now and welcome her to the program. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Stan and Chloe. I'm doing well. And Chloe, it sounds like the doctor cares about you very much. So
he does. He's a good doctor. Yeah. Good doctor. Catherine Marx is the District Director for the Connecticut District Office of the United States Small Business Administration. And she's joining us this morning to talk a little bit about small business and what small business is here to do and why it's important. Now, I don't know if you saw it, but they had an informational session. August was Black History Business Month, and so they had they had a whole host of different partners that were involved in black business. The SBA, I don't mean the SBA. The Business Alliance, the Black Business Alliance, who did a show here for like 2 or 3 years, like once a week, I want to say. 2 of their executive directors did a weekly show here on business, and of course we have all kinds of different things that we try to do to keep people up on the ideas of being involved in small business. But a lot of people are afraid of the things necessary to do, or I guess they don't take out the time, business plans, having a banker. Well, they talked about all of these things in their informational session. And you can watch this on accesstv.org, and you go to W4 News. So if you go to our website, to the network website, accesstv.org, just scroll down, you'll see W4 News. And you can watch there, or you go to the W4 News group and watch it. You look like you're right on the edge of a question.
Yeah, I was just going to say the scariest thing about, you just mentioned there is for a new person going into business, I suppose, who don't think in that this comes first, that comes second, that, what do you call those people? Very organized people who are not like that, and you say to them, all right, we're going to do a business plan. And your mind is just one big boggle. We're going to do a business plan, and you're going to do some projections, and where do you want to be in a year from now, what do you want to be in 5 years from now, and you're just looking at them and you say, I just want to go into business. I just want to do my business. What do you bother me with this stuff for? I just want to do a day-to-day business. Now, if you ask me, what do you expect to do next week, or what do you expect to do 2 days from now? I can give you some kind of answer, but what next year, 5 years from now, who is your business directed to? Who's your customer? It took me years to even begin to answer. Years to begin to answer that question. Years to begin to even think about a business plan. But I couldn't think about it the way they teach it. I couldn't think about it the way, because it just, I would pretend, and I've written a business plan, but it was just all pretentious. It was just pretend, because business plan, the word, this meant nothing, absolutely nothing to me, but it meant something to the people who maybe I was trying to borrow from. So you follow an outline, and you tell them all of this, and then you never look at that plan again, because it didn't mean anything to you in the first place. So I stopped all of that. I just I
Dan,
said,
there's a lot to unpack there. Um, there's a lot to unpack there. Chloe, thank you for sharing. And Stan, thank you for joining us for our celebration of Black Business Month.
Mm-hmm.
And Chloe, we had a lot of partners on our show, and I hope that people reach out to W4 News and watch the program to talk just about what you're talking about, Chloe, because a business plan can mean all sorts of things to people, and for some, it's one page. For others, it's multiple pages. And what it's always doing, it's always changing. Your business plan is always changing. If any business 2 years ago had how to deal with the pandemic in their business plan, I would say no one did. Not many did, that is, and many small businesses. So a small business is always pivoting, always, thinking of new ideas. But what a business plan does, I think Chloe, you really hit the nail on the head, is that when you're going to a bank, when you're looking for capital, it can help you frame the dialogue. And Stan, you can probably attest to this. On our program the other night, there were a lot of free resources that are there for you to help you walk through what you need to start. And if there's three things I'd like to talk about, Stan, today, is one, the resources that are available, that they're at all stages of business. So not just for businesses that want to start today, but businesses like Chloe's that have been in existence. Number two, what I'd love to talk about is don't go it alone. All of these businesses that showed, all the resources that showed up on Tuesday night are there to help. That is the SBA's mission, is to help start, grow, and expand your business and recover your business. And then number three, that there's follow through. And I think you heard that, Stan, in some of the stories that were shared, is that there has to be follow through when you go to these resources. And then that follow through gets you to that next step, and that gets you to your success.
I would say the follow through is very, very important because I guess if you simplify, it's like planning to eat, and then the follow through would be eating. And so if you don't follow through, you'll starve to death. A lot of things, I guess, hinder people. What would you say is the number one reason why people, in essence, don't follow through?
I think, Chloe, there's a fear factor, fear of failing. And you have to change. Usually a small business entrepreneur has that different mindset. They're going out on their own. They have that dream, and follow through can be difficult. I talk to small businesses every day. I have 1,001 stories. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to learn. And a small business started. She was gluten-free, and she wanted to make ice cream that was made with dairy, but still, lactose-free, made with dairy, but still lactose-free. So she did everything necessary, and she put her name out there, what she thought was her name of her business and what it should be. And 2 years down the road, after selling her product in farmers markets and getting in a couple of local stores, she went and got some help with marketing and realized that the name she chose for the business was not connecting. And when she told me the story, she said this to me. She says, I put my baby out in the world, and now they're telling me to change her name. Right? But once she did that, once she listened to those experts, she had to follow through. And it was hard. It was hard to change the name. She didn't want to, but she knew she had to. She followed through, changed the name, and I'm happy to say now she's actually in a regional grocery store. And she's still evolving and she's still changing. And her business plan continues to change and continues to evolve. And she continues to have those hurdles that she has to push through and follow through.
The fear factor when you say that, I could see that because your business is you. It's an extension of you. You're bearing your soul. It's an idea that you had. People gonna laugh at it. Oh, that won't work. All those things you kind of go through. And when you said, I put my baby out there and now they want me to change the first thing that came to my mind is just like this visceral feeling like, oh, I'm not going to listen to you. What do you know? I'm not going to change the name. That's the name, people push back and it's just this intense sense of ownership. For me, the big thing is I'm always afraid someone's trying to undermine what it is I want to do. And so I don't necessarily trust the people that you're going to for advice. Like, do they really want to help me, or are they trying to stop me from going forward?
Well, that's probably a little bit bigger than my world, but I'll tell you, let me just give you a couple of examples.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing right here, your Access TV,
Mm-hmm.
your W4 News,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, that's a small business. It was a dream of yours,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've took it, you've whether you had a business plan written down or not, you've gone through steps to make this successful. Those are steps very equivalent to what a small business needs to do. And I think, Stan, what I really wanted to do with our program Tuesday night to celebrate Black Business Month was bring forth people to the community
Mm-hmm.
so that you could find that trust.
Mm.
Any relationship has to start with trust. So if you're getting advice, there has to be a trust factor in there that the advice that you're getting, that you'll receive, and the person wants you to follow through. So, for example, we fund here in the state of Connecticut the Small Business Development Center.
Mm-hmm.
And in the world of government, you live in a world of acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
So that is SBDC.
Mm-hmm.
And they have counselors throughout the state that are free. And they can talk to Chloe one time if that's all she wants, to talk to her about her business plan or talk to her about an idea that she's going through. Or they can be with her for 5 years working through her growth. When I talked about my 3 things, number 2 was don't go it alone. These are free resources that are out there, again, for businesses at any stage of the business. Again, I have 1,000 stories in my head. There was a telecom worker whose firm was leaving his territorial area.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an opportunity to pick it up and start the business. And actually, he would be a great person for your program. So I'll look through my contacts and get the name for you. So he was scared, Chloe. He was scared just like everyone else. Why? He was working for a big corporation. And though he had the technical expertise, he had never done payroll. He had never filed the taxes that need to be filed or the state regulations. So one of the first places he turned was the Small Business Development Center. And they have been walking with him for 5 years. He's done the follow through. They don't do the work for him. They help guide him and give him counseling. And he's very successful at that now. So you do have to trust Stan. You have to trust your advisors. So we brought on folks on the program Tuesday night who we fund, who we know we can trust, and therefore you can trust.
I think one of the other things that I thought was pretty cool about the program was let me rephrase that. One of the things that came up in the program that I never really thought about was having a banker. Like, your banker should be somebody that you're close to and you have a relationship with. And I said, well, that makes sense, you know. If you have a relationship with the banker knows you established, communication. You running short on cash flow. You need to make payroll. You might borrow money for a couple of weeks, pay it back in a month or two. And there's like this, there's a resource. Cash is a resource. It's money. And you can go to them. You borrow money and you pay the money back. It's just like a short term, like you would go to a friend. And I never really thought of bankers that way. I think a lot of people are afraid afraid of the banker.
Thought of a banker that way. Never.
You know?
Yes.
It's like, oh, gee whiz, I got to go to the bank. They're not going to give me any money. There's so much pessimism.
Right.
The program is, I really encourage people to watch this. It's only 90 minutes. It moves very, very quickly because there's a lot of different individuals that are all partnering with the Small Business Administration. And there was the one young lady. Now, what was the acronym you were using? The
SBDC is Small Business Development Center. And the gentleman that was on for that was Joe Williams.
Okay.
And he does talk. Joe and I have met a number of times, talking in the community to try to break down those barriers and get people to trust and come. And so Joe Williams was SBDC.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that I'd like to mention, which is right in the Hartford area on Farmington Avenue, the Women's Business Center, which operates actually out of the University of Hartford, has partnered with EcoSpace 224 on Farmington Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And Stan, you can attest to this. We use the word free quite a few times.
Yeah, yes. You all made a very big effort to make sure that folk understood that free actually means free.
Right. So at the EcoSpace 224, the Women's Business Center, which the SBA partially funds, has put in a mobile tech lab with education that is free. So, for instance, if you and I wanted to do a live hybrid show,
mm-hmm.
that would be a space where we could get that technology that I don't have. I don't know if you have it. Actually, I think you do. But we could get that technology to host a program. Or if we were trying to sell a product or sell our services, if we were deciding that we are leaving the corporate world or leaving a job that we're unsatisfied with, and we're starting a new job, and it is selling dog walking services,
mm-hmm.
You could make a video at that tech lab. You could get advice on that video at that lab, create that video with a green screen behind you, and put it up on social media in a number of different platforms. So that program, thank you for talking about it. To get all that information in 90 minutes was definitely a challenge. But there are services throughout the state that can help entrepreneurs. And sometimes it's just getting through that one barrier. So Chloe talked about fear. You talked about follow through. It might be that you go to one of these programs and get the free services, and then you're okay for another year and a half to follow through and get over those hurdles. But then you'll come back, and you don't have to come back to the same organization. You can use any one of our resource partners, because they are funded through the SBA, and therefore they are free.
Talk a little bit about why small businesses are, I'll say a necessity, and why it is in the best interest of, state, local, municipal governments to have small businesses be successful. Because I think a lot of people don't realize how important small businesses are.
Yeah, you're going to get a little passion here from me, because this is what I do and why I do it. Small businesses, everyone will say they're the engine of our economy. Indeed, in Connecticut, 99.4% of our 355,000 businesses are small businesses. So they're the majority of businesses out there. And people will say that they're the engines of our economy. That is very, very true. Every business has started small. And when you think about that, let it just sit there for a second. No business starts out big. Every business starts out small, and they need help along the way. But the most important aspect of small business is that they are essential to our communities. They are the fabric of our communities. They help build and sustain each and one of our communities. And that is really, those are the stories that I see. That is the bakery in New Haven. The bakery in New Haven that came through the pandemic with help from the SBA, and they turned around and they are making a concerted, deliberate effort to have an impact on their community. And they are hiring the Afghan refugees that came into this country after the conflict. So the impact that small businesses can have on our communities has to be one of the most important things. And that is why we had that program Tuesday night, because in that essence, we do have to talk about equity. We do have to talk about reaching out, and we do have to talk about building trust.
Great points. The small businesses that drive our local economy. And so what's that number? 94%?
No, 99.4.
99.4%
of Connecticut businesses are small businesses. So, that's obviously a numerator and denominator, because, there's some very large businesses in Connecticut that employ tens of thousands of people, right? The state of Connecticut employs a lot of people. But if you look at the, all the businesses in Connecticut, and you determine which are small businesses, which usually there's different matrices for all industries, 99.4% of businesses in Connecticut are small businesses.
Wow. And so small business is essential. It
Yes.
is absolutely essential. Do you see a rise in people that are wanting to be involved? You used a couple of examples of people like the guy was working for, I guess, a telecom. They moved. He stayed behind. But with the recent pandemic that we're just coming out of, or kind of still in the tail end of, a lot of people, they call it the Great Reset. It's my thinking that people are discovering that there are things that they would like to do, and the opportunity was presented. Not this is the way you want to have opportunities presented, but because of the pandemic, opportunity was presented for people to actually, kind of like step out in faith, if you will, and try something new. Do you see an increase in people attempting small businesses as a result of this?
So you see people chasing the American dream. So the pandemic, the books haven't been written. There's going to be books written about the effects, the impact of the pandemic in all aspects of our society. But people were forced to be home. Many businesses were closed. Many parents lost the access to childcare. So there was a lot going on in March, April, and May of 2020. And if you look at the labor participation numbers, particularly women really just dropped out of the workforce. But you're absolutely right, Stan. What they did was, now they had time. And they said, well, I've always wanted to try this. Is this a good time to try it? And with the ability to get online and work online and in instances sell your product online, there was a lot of creativity. Again, I'm full of stories. There was a yoga shop that just happened to open in January of 2020. Okay. She had always intended eventually to get on virtual as well. Well, come March of 2020, she had no choice. If she was going to continue her business, she had to tackle that fear, Chloe. She had to tackle that fear, reach out to a resource partner, follow through, and get online. But there were many that weren't at that stage in January of 2020, and they are choosing now to try out working on their own, try that new business, follow that dream. And it's small business is everything and everywhere. It is talk shows like this. In my opinion, this is a small business. It may be someone who is working for an insurance company in communications, and now they want to do content and they're going out on their own as a consultant in contact. It may be someone who is coming close to retirement who said, I don't want to go back. Or maybe for health reasons, they can't go back and they are going on their own. But again, at 3 points, there's resources available. They are free. Don't go it alone, and then follow through on the advice that you're given. Can I give out one more resource partner's name?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I could talk the whole hour, but this is a conversation.
That's all we do in the morning. We sit here and we talk about all kinds of stuff. Go on.
Not just me talking. So one of the resource partners I think you heard from on Tuesday night was a resource partner called SCORE. SCORE.
Yes.
And they are 6 chapters in Connecticut, and they'll meet anyone anywhere. So they are really within our 169 beautiful towns here in the state of Connecticut. And they are experienced individuals who, some are working, some are retired, who are dedicating themselves to being mentors. So Chloe, there might be a SCORE mentor out there that has owned a bookshop before, and he or she has dedicated their free time to mentoring folks to get them to the next step. And in particular, we have a SCORE chapter out in the Danbury area that actually works with people who are coming out of incarceration to help them start their own businesses. So when I say, Stan, that we have a whole blanket of resources that are free to entrepreneurs, they run the gamut of everything.
Wow. Thing I was thinking about, because as you mentioned, so what I do really is a small business. It's like micro business because it's just me. I do a lot of different things, but there's always I'm surrounded by lots of people, but there's a core group of people who are always pushing. I mean, I'll have 2-hour, 3-hour conversations with them. They'll get me on the phone. Well, you need to grow this. You need to expand. You should be hiring people, and so I go back and forth with this whole notion. Do I really want to be involved in this? I like being like a sole proprietor, and you don't have any hassles. There's you have employee issues, and I've been there, done that.
I felt the same way, Stan, with the bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to go? They were talking about growing the bookstore. I just want my little bookstore. That's all I want. I didn't want, I thought about being like the biggest bookstore in Connecticut, but I didn't think about anything. I just wanted my bookstore. And then they said, well, you start hiring people. Some people said hire people, and some people said, oh, Cleo, I think it was my accountant who said, oh, Cleo, don't hire anybody. Don't hire anybody. So I was going it alone, and you're absolutely right. You cannot do it alone. I want to do everything myself, everything alone. The advice I got was change that name, Cull Books. Change that name. What does Cull Books mean? Where does it go? But I got fascinated by the word when I was, I like words, and I was reading the definition. I said, that's what I'm doing. I'm culling. I'm going out there. I'm putting in the new, and doing that. And they said, nobody knows Cull. Change that to Miss Cleo. Everybody knows Miss Cleo, but who knows Cull Books? I said, Miss Cleo. I never, why can't you call it Miss Cleo's bookstore, Miss Cleo's storytelling bookstore, Miss Cleo, and I rejected everything. I rejected everything. And I just kept on with the Cull Books because I knew what it meant. I don't care. I didn't think, and maybe that's when you're starting a small business, I didn't think beyond myself or my idea of what I wanted.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yes. And if you didn't understand what I was saying, what did it mean to me? I'm trying to tell you what it means. It didn't resonate to you. Well, you didn't get it, but why do you go into business? You go into business to sell things, to bring your ideas out. And just like the lady who wanted to keep her little baby there, I just want to keep my book. I just want to keep my books, and I loved them, and I didn't, so I didn't sort of go out there, and I just, so I'm just listening to some of the things both of you are saying, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, I absolutely,
well, it would seem,
but I wasn't ready to listen to.
Yeah. Well, it would seem to me that, I'm listening to what you're saying, and it would seem to me that this is where the business plan would come in. Because if you had a business plan before you stepped out, then you would name is would seem to be a big obvious. I don't know about that name. You have any other ideas that you might want to work with? And then they could talk you through that. Because once you start and you get invested, like was mentioned earlier, 2 years, and she's got her stuff out there online, and she's been in a couple of supermarkets, and everybody knows the name of her brand, but it's not what it really should be. And now you have to do a name change in the middle. I guess it's better to just get it done at some point, but
that hurts though. That really cuts you when you got to give up your name. That's what, and they told me that at the beginning. You got to change that name. But I really love that name. But I didn't listen to him, so I don't know how many people know Cull Books. I guess a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. More people could have. More people know Miss Cleo Storyteller than probably Cull Books. I don't know.
So I hope both of you come to see one of our free resources. But so Stan, I'm loving this conversation because it's bringing in some really points that people can connect with. But one of the things is that our resource partners are there at every stage. So there's a Chinese proverb, when is the best time to plant a tree?
Now.
10 years ago is probably the best, or now, right? 10 years ago or now. It's a dual answer, right? 10 years ago or now. So don't look backwards, look forwards, reach out to a resource partner, no matter where you are in the business. And I agree. This is a small business, but talking about the business plan it's still your business. So Chloe, if you just wanted to be that best bookstore in Hartford, that's your business plan. You don't have to be regional, right? If your business plan should be what you want to be within the confines of what you want, and then it can change. It can change 3 years from now. It can change tomorrow. and again, I wish we had a different word for business plan, whether it be, a path to success. But there has to be something in, you need to sort of get it, pushed together, and Stan, on the radio show this week, I think we heard about the nurse, who started her small business without the business plan. And then she got to a point where she kept on growing, that's when she reached out to us and worked on her business plan, right? So it can happen at all stages.
Well, it's not that difficult if you're willing to just if you want to be successful, you want your business to be prosperous. If you have a successful business, you can really be engaged in your community. You have personal freedom and time and flexibility. There are a lot of sacrifices. It's a lot of work, but the rewards are enormous.
Yes.
The benefit of seeing your ideas and notions come to pass, in the wonderful world of television production. When I was running the public access station, one of the nicest things was to see somebody come through the door with an idea. They had this idea for their show, and it doesn't exist. It's just something that's up in here. And then when they see their program air for the first time, and like, there's my idea. Your business plan is the same kind of a thing. You have a plan. So for television, everything, you have to have a script. Even if you become unscripted or improvisational, there's still a script that's in your mind. You know where you're going, what your destination is. So like your 5-year plan, your 1-year plan, you have to know where you're going in order to get there.
You said something. Your business plan is what you want, your ideas, and everyone who's helped me with a business plan, there was a particular outline of what you need to do for the business plan. And you got to know this, and you got to know this, and you got to know. And so I have business plans that people have helped me with, but they weren't me. And I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Catherine.
You said something. You said it's you, and as soon as you said it's you, I could think I wanted this and I wanted that, and I could sit here right now and write it, but it was never me before.
You should end the show early and start.
Because I could see it right now, what I wanted and what I wanted what the store to be, but never dawned on me that I could say it, because the outlines for a business plan does not show that. It shows what you need to do, bam, 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 bam. And the people who are talking to you are telling you that. Nobody ever said, it's all you. What do you want?
Well,
who's the biggest thing? Who is your audience? And, I always thought the world was my audience. And so you have to pinpoint who your audience is. And I could not do that. Sort of pinpoint.
Well, it would seem to me that this is where the resources of the SBA come in, and then their extended family or partners. Because first thing that comes to my mind, listening to what you're talking about, is like SCORE. With a lot of retired, successful people in every imaginable realm of business. Every. There's someone that's doing it. And so respectfully, I suggest or say that perhaps you yourself, myself, and a whole lot of other people aren't asking the right people for help. Because, sometimes people will fancy themselves, but like, have you ever been in business and was your business successful? And where is your business? The business you retired from, did someone buy? Did you sell it? Did you give it to your kids? Something. I mean, what qualifies you to help me? And I think a lot of times people, because they don't know, they're asking people, and the people that they ask sometimes know or don't know. And I don't think there's probably anything wrong with getting a second opinion. And
Second, third, or fourth, Stan. Second, third, or fourth. And guess what? All of our advice is free. Second, third, or fourth.
Very good.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to add?
One, I hope you have me back on.
Absolutely. You have an open invitation. Anytime you have something that you'd like to share, feel free to give me a call and we'll get you on.
Yeah, I'd love to continue this conversation. And SCORE is just a tremendous resource. Stan, it's not only did they sell their business, it's not only was their business successful, it's guess what they did? They probably failed. They probably failed and have that story. And failure is unfortunately one of the best lessons you can have. And they are there to share that, right? To make you not fail. They're there to take their failure and make it a gift for someone else. So score.org, SCORE.org. And all you have to do is put in your zip code and they'll connect you with someone in your area. So no matter where you are in the state of Connecticut, they will connect you with someone in your area. And then once you put in your information, they try to connect someone with you in your industry. And this is particularly helpful because, Stan, one of the places that we see a lot of growth is in the food service industry. People saying, well, I make a great granola. I want to sell it. Or I'm going to keep my day job, but on the weekends, I want to do a food truck. Those are all wonderful endeavors, but they take that experience. And I know that there are many mentors in that industry that are there to help, as well as other resources that we have here in the state of Connecticut. So SBA.gov is where you can reach me and my organization. Some of the resource partners we talked about today are the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and that's SBDC, I believe that's .org. You'll have to double check me on that one. The Women's Business Center at the University of Hartford. We also have the Women's Business Development Council here in Connecticut that just opened up, that's opening up a brand new office right on Bank Street in New London. So people can actually walk right in. And then we have our friends at the Back Business Alliance and so many more that are offering help to our Connecticut entrepreneurs. All
right. Cleo, any last question?
No, just thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah.
I think I got a lot out of this.
Excellent.
All right. Well, I hope other folk did as well. And folks, I'm telling you, we have Paul Willis, who's likes to do a lot of things around business. And so he's always trying to move the business needle forward with SCORE and SBA. And so when you called me earlier in the week, I was very excited to partner and do some things. So this will be just the beginning. And anytime you have anything to share, please feel free to give me a call, and we'll get you in here. And I'm thankful and thank you for taking time out of your schedule this morning to spend with us.
Thank you very much. You both have a nice holiday weekend. Chloe, I hope you get that rest. And if one more thing is, don't forget, the best thing we can do to support our small businesses is shop small and dine local.
All right.
Yes.
Shop small, dine local. I like that. All right, my friends, stick and stay. We will be right back. We'll do a little bit of video here for you. It is a back to school video. Check this out. This was done a couple years ago by some Hartford school students. Thank you very much.
To be here is our mission, full of purpose. We are driven, we are special, we have pride in who we are, and you can't break our stride. And if you see, like I see, you will realize it's not a dream. This school you make it, lessons you take it, and we work as a team. This school is better with you in it. Yeah, yeah, for every hour, day, and minute. Yeah, yeah, we are here, we are winning. Yeah, yeah, the school is better with you in it. In it, in it. We are loving when you're here. Yeah, man, the future's when you're here. Hope you realize we do, can you believe it? Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it. In our school, such a given for you to learn is our mission. When we ver is what we are as a unit, and you can't bring us down. And if you see, like I see, you'll realize it's not a dream. This school you make it, chances you take it, and we work as a team. This school is better with you in it. Yeah, yeah, for every hour, day, and minute. Yeah, yeah, when you're here, everyone is winning. Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it, in it. We all love it when you're here. Yeah, yeah. Man, the future's when you're here. Hope you realize we do care. Can you believe it? Yeah, yeah. This school is better with you in it. In it, in it. And just to let you know, before you go, we know your skills won't fail to show. Yeah, we will call you our greatest prize. We know that you'll reach for the skies. Like a star, you'll come right through. I'ma rock with you. Nothing can break us apart because the school is better with you in it. Yeah, yeah, for every hour, day, and minute. Yeah, yeah, when you're here, everyone is winning. Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it, in it, in it. We all love it when you're here. Yeah, man, the future's once you're here. Hope you realize we do care. Can you believe it? Yeah, yeah, this school is better with you in it. In it, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it. Yeah, this school is better with you in it.
Sheldon Neal. You know, I saw him the other day. He's actually doing some, I guess, he does like administration. Like, I don't know if he's like a substitute administrator, but I was picking my daughter up from school. I said, Mr. Neal. And so he's like, I hadn't seen him since we did this video, but he was the principal of journalism and media.
Oh, that's where I heard the name before. I've heard his name before.
Yeah, pull your mic up.
Oh, I've heard his name before, but
yeah, Sheldon Neal, great, a great administrator. Yeah,
I did a few things there. They put me on camera talking when the school was open. You know, and it was a great school. I loved being there, but it didn't last long.
Well, they're over now at the Weaver campus. JMA, Journalism Media, moved to Weaver, the Weaver campus. There's 2 schools or 3 schools over there, I think. 2 or 3 schools. The Weaver.
And how's that working?
I guess it's working okay.
Who goes to Weaver, though?
Well, students.
I mean, are both these schools called Weaver?
No. There's the Weaver campus. So the whole campus is Weaver.
But the school
And then there's, and I think Weaver is there. Weaver High School is there. Now, I should know this considering I'm in that building once a month taping. The Board of Education meetings are broadcast live from Weaver. But journalism and media is there. There's a performing arts school there too, I think. I want to say Kinsella or the School of the I think Kinsella's there. I should ask my wife. She would know this. It's just right on the other side of the wall. But and then there's Weaver. There are 3 schools. I'm almost positive. I used to like know this stuff, but I did a data dump at the end of 2019. I just dumped it all.
You just dumped it all?
Just dumped it all. It's like you open the top of your head and just dump everything political out of it. Because you don't need to know it anymore.
Does any other town have schools like this, or is it just Hartford who has schools like this?
No, I think there's other towns.
Like breaking up their schools like this?
Because of the Sheffield O'Neill, a lot of this stuff came about with the magnet schools. They magnetized schools in an effort to draw people to the school in a quote-unquote effort to unclog the mono, the one group of people attending a particular school. Most of the schools in Hartford are attended by quote-unquote black and brown people. That is not odd considering that black and brown people live in Hartford. So, there's an abundance of students of color in Hartford schools. So in an effort to desegregate the school, Sheffield O'Neill wanted to have, if the schools were less, desegregation, and resources that are in schools in white, quote unquote, white schools have resources that black schools don't. And so in an effort to equally distribute those resources, you send black students into white schools, or you draw white students into predominantly black schools. If you were a parent,
would you do that? If you were a white parent, if the school has less resources than your school,
there's lots of controversy over the whole issue. To me, it really is more of an issue of integration than it is education. And so, desegregation and integration are separate issues in my thinking than education. You don't have to sit next to anybody to be good, to be educated. You need to have a frame of mind that you want to learn and a teacher who's gifted in teaching. Those 2 things make for great opportunities for people to learn. Right. Are we talking about learning? Or are we talking about redistributing funds? Are we talking about integrating communities? All these things are, legitimate points of discussion. But I personally always thought of it as an end run around a desire to integrate communities, and it being done through the schools. But if you have a city that's predominantly Spanish speaking and black in the African American out of the captivity context, then the majority of students attending the schools will be. And no different than if you have a Jewish community The majority of the kids that attend the school are going to be Jewish. Does that mean you have to have Catholic kids in the school? You got to bring in Amish kids? You know, you go to Pennsylvania, there's Amish communities. All the schools there are attended by basically Amish kids. They're just people who have a frame of mind and frame of reference that they hold dear to their hearts, and they're just trying to live their best life. And so you learn. And I think we get all kinds of jacked up over stuff.
You can't force integrate that. We should have learned that by now.
Right. You shouldn't force integrate, but clearly they do.
It doesn't work.
Force integration, and no, it does not work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
And it's not it. The reason why it doesn't work. Let me phrase this the right way. It doesn't work. And the reason that people would like to present for why it doesn't work. If that makes any sense. You know what I mean? It's okay. I'm trying to bring it down. I'm trying to find the right words to articulate what it is I'm thinking. You can't force people to be with folks that they're uncomfortable with. People are creatures of type. The Bible says, forsake not the gathering of like-minded believers. People like to gather with folk who think like them. They draw strength, encouragement from people who have like minds. You can't force people to think a certain way. It's really mind. It's like it's thought police coming in, telling you can't think this. If you think this, we're gonna punish you, so that you stop thinking this way. We want you to go here. We want there's people trying to control you. Live your best life and go on. Would seemingly be my thing. Am I making sense? I don't know.
Yeah. So if you think a different way, you just sort of keep your mouth shut when you're around other people.
Right.
That aren't like you.
You respect the fact that other people think differently than you. It's not against the law for folk to think differently. My favorite thing is when someone wants to come tell me, well, you know, so-and-so was talking about you. And, well, I thought you'd like to know. I said, it's none of my business. It's not my business what they're saying. If they want me to know,
they'll tell me.
They tell me. Why are you wasting your time telling me about what someone else had to say?
Because I wanna cause a little eruption.
Right.
That's why you would tell them.
Right.
How many things do you hear about your friends or their spouses or their children that you never tell them? Because why would you tell them? I mean, why are you gonna jump into that? And why did anybody tell you in the first place? Why would they come and tell me your business? Why?
There's a one of the viewers, excuse me. One of the viewers asks, did you see the news about the administration not hiring older people and Catholics? Caught on video. Yeah, Project Veritas. They're famous for taking undercover video cameras into situations and capturing people on tape and video. Some people don't like it. They call it ambush journalism. But be that as it may, you know, deep cover there's undercover people embed themselves into organizations to find out stuff. You can't get no more ambush than that. But it's just another way of gathering information. And I guess to some degree it might be a little bit unscrupulous. However, when it comes to public officials, I think the rules absolutely change.
Absolutely what?
Change. Because public officials are in service to the public. And I would say school administrators are public officials. So it's in the paper today, but it broke yesterday or the day before. There is in Greenwich a principal, either a principal or vice administrator, who said he doesn't like to hire older people Catholics and conservatives.
He said that out loud?
He said it on tape. He didn't know he was being taped, but he said that out loud. Now he probably is young. That sounds like something stupid that a young person would say. And by stupid, go to my Facebook page. I put this out once a year. Stupid is when you bring an economic loss to yourself and those around you. It's a financial issue.
Stupid is when you lost your voice there.
Economic loss, or a loss to you and another person or group of people. Mm-hmm. That's stupidity. Abandoned brings profit to himself at your expense. He's stealing from you. The helpless allows him or herself to be used by everyone else. So they're kind of helpless. All right. Mm-hmm. The best scenario is what we use here, mutually beneficial, where you benefit and we both benefit. So there's 4 quadrants in these laws, if you will. So there's mutual beneficial. It's benefit, loss, abandoned, and I can't think of the fourth one. And it's a matrix, and so you go around, and as you move towards, the thief takes from you and profits himself. So think of the stupid as a person who sees you on the ladder and pushes the ladder out to bring you loss, and you fall on them. And they get hurt. You both, that's a stupid action, to push a ladder out while someone is sitting on it, or to cut the limb off the tree and you're sitting on the part that's going to fall and it falls on someone else. All right.
Not funny, but yeah.
Right. So I'm suggesting that this principal did something very stupid by saying out loud his hiring practices he had a school. I mean, you can't. Why would you even? First of all, you shouldn't be doing this. Second of all, why would you say something like that to anybody? You don't know. You don't know who these people. You don't know who you're talking to.
What repercussions happened?
Well, they just found out. Now the Attorney General has launched an investigation. He's opened up a phone line for people to call from the school that might be whistleblowers on this. This guy's done. He's done. He's done. The governor spoke at the airport yesterday talking about he wants to know
and that's in Greenwich.
This is in Greenwich.
Greenwich.
Is this a systemic problem throughout the state? This is not Connecticut. We're not like this. I want everyone to understand, and I want our Department of Education make it known. Oh, there'll be big time repercussions. It brings a bad light on Greenwich.
Was he an older individual or young?
I don't know. He's either exceedingly puffed up in himself, or he's very stupid.
Very comfortable in saying that. He was just secure in his position, and like
arrogant.
Yeah.
What's the begins with an A. Oh no, H.
And Catholics, how would he know if someone was Catholic unless
he probably asks them?
Because he asked him, "Are you Catholic?"
I don't know that he asks him, but I would ask them. I would probably say that he probably does. Because it's always the question. So one of those kind of like, hey, I'm so glad you came by. It's great day outside. God is in a blessing business, and so I feel blessed today. And then they'll respond. Oh, you go to church? Yeah. Oh, you? Yeah. I go to St. Mary's. Now you know. Oh, really? How long you been going to St. Mary's? I think I know some people over. Now you know. So there's ways you can get information from people.
Yeah.
Because people always want to, So you fish. He's fishing, and So.
Oh, how many people did he do that to?
That's what they want to know.
Oh my gosh. How many people that went in to apply for jobs and didn't get them because of that? Because they were Catholic or because they were, what do you say, Catholic and what else?
Catholic, older adults, and conservatives.
How would you know if someone was conservative or not?
You ask them you ask them what they feel about a conservative politician.
I remember I went on a retreat one time with a friend, and he was hired by they're not in existence anymore. Green stamps, when we say
S&H green stamps.
S&H green stamps.
Bring the books in by the.
But he had to become a Republican in order for them to hire him. But they don't do that anymore, right?
They don't do it openly.
But that was open. You must be a Republican. So he became a Republican so he could get this job at S&H.
There are plenty of black and white movies and comedy skits from days of old where it's just the reverse of what it is now. I mean, they make mockery of Democrats and all kinds of stuff. It's these things, they're cyclical. They rotate. But no, you can find out where a person is very, very easily, just in general conversation. Once a person is comfortable, they will tell you anything you want to know.
Don't ever get comfortable. Don't ever get that comfortable.
Right. So, I wonder how they got him to open up like that. Project Veritas is very good at what they do. And of course, you don't know you're being taped. It's a one of those hidden camera type things. 60 minutes, lots of, it's standard operating procedure.
But you say things, I talk too much all the time. But you say things that you just say things, and you're talking. But I'm going to go to Doctor now.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the phone, and he told me this before. And so I said, no, I have to go now. I was talking, I have to go now. I have an appointment. Bye-bye. And he yells from the door, don't tell them you have an appointment. Just tell them you have to go. It's none of their business what you have an appointment or you don't have an appointment. None of their business. And one time I was answered the phone and I said, I'm at the doctor. Don't tell them you're at this doctor. It's none of their business. Hang up the phone. That's not necessary. So the first time he did that, to me, I was shocked, But he did it to me just the other day. I thought, I saw him come, so I said, I have an appointment. I got to go. And he yells, don't tell them you have to have an appointment. Just tell them you got to go. It's none of their business.
Well, people volunteer, and he's trying to help you with that information.
I know he's trying to help me, and I probably, because I would have, if he had never told me that first time, I would have said, oh yeah, I'm going to the doctors now. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And he really, don't tell him all
it is
of that.
No one's business where you're going.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
so you volunteer. Most people volunteer information.
Too much. I do too much, I know.
And they're just walking data sieves. They volunteer all kinds of information, this and the third, well, I'm getting ready to leave. I gotta go over to Lily's and get my meal, so what are you gonna get? Well, I always get the same thing, chicken, this, that. So they're volunteering information. They just leak it all out. Where they go, how they go, what time they get up, where they go, you could plan some people's whole their whole agenda because they're volunteering it. But this guy is a principal. I think he was a principal or vice principal. And he is this is a huge issue now. This is going to be scandalous in Greenwich. The best thing they can do is immediately terminate him.
And he's the principal?
principal, vice principal, he's involved in hiring or else key decision making in terms of who ultimately winds up working. He should be immediately discharged. See, I'm old school like that. I'm often told that, well, you just can't, and that's in my never to be humble opinion, that's the problem.
He has to be on probation. He has to
No, he don't. No, he don't. No. Get out. You're fired.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Done. Toast. Out.
Someone else will hire you, not us.
Right. Because it gets to the heart of the matter, what we were talking about earlier. That's how he believes. That's where he is at. And he has allowed his personal issues to cloud his judgment and decision making in the workplace. He has demonstrated a severe conflict of interest that is not in line with what we do. And on that basis, you're done. You can go somewhere else and fail, but you will never get another chance to fail here. The only reason he might get a pass is if I was responsible for teaching him this and I failed. He didn't know any better. But you can't be an administrator making decisions to hire and fire people without knowing this. So he's not some new guy that just got hired last week on probation. He's the person, he is clearly in a position to make chief decisions to hire and fire. And if he isn't in that position, he's presenting himself to someone else as someone who is. So if he's just fronting trying to be old big man on campus, even though he's not, the same thing happens. Same thing. To whom much is given, much is required. You want to act like a big man, then guess what? You're going to take the consequences of the big man. You can't have it both ways. And then this is not joking. Then these are claims he made. He besmirched the town of Greenwich. He besmirched the school system, his immediate supervisor, all the way up the line to the superintendent. And you know how you got the state of Connecticut Department of Education getting ready to make an investigation. This is Project Veritas. Project Veritas has national footprint. Next thing you know, this will be a big talking point in conservative talking circles. I wouldn't be surprised to hear Donald Trump talking about it. That's the kind of stupidity that this guy demonstrated. Done.
That could go a lot further than Greenwich.
Oh, yeah. It's already gone a lot further than Greenwich. The governor of the state of Connecticut has weighed in on it. The attorney general of the state of Connecticut is going to investigate. He's done. He's done. Oh, he done. This kind of stuff I get passionate about. You know, this is a leadership issue. He's done. Done. No mercy. No mercy. I don't lose no sleep. No mercy. No mercy.
But what was the immediate, if you know, what was the immediate response to him when it first came out? Did they?
This is it.
Is he still working?
It just came out.
Oh, so he's still working.
I would imagine so. He hasn't had time to be fired. This just came out like yesterday or the day before.
Wow.
I don't know, but I would say it's probably safe to say he's still working. Knowing how people get fired, I would say he's still working. He's probably in the administrators union or principals union, all that kind of stuff. He's probably still fired. I'd have fired him as soon as the news broke. I got your back until you bring us down. Once you bring us down, you're done. You're done. If you come to me and apologize, we can work with you. But something like this breaks in the news, too much is given, much is required. You a high level employee working for the city like that, and you're under my charge, you're done. Done.
Wow.
Done.
No second chance on that.
No second chance. I'm not even walking you down the hall. I like to walk. Walk with me. We're going to do the long walk. I call it the long walk. When we get to the end of the hall, you're not coming back up. I ain't going to walk with you. Walk him out the building. You're done. Done. We need more. To me, we need more of that. You shot a kid in the back while you were on patrol because you were afraid for your life because the kid was running away from you. You're done. Done.
We don't need an investigation.
There's nothing to investigate. You're done. Doctor makes a legitimate mistake in the operating room and he's through. You got a weapon. You've been duly authorized by the people of the town you live in. And someone got shot and it's okay. Oh, please. No. Find another line of work.
But of course, that is not the case.
That's not the case. Secret Service doesn't shoot people who try to assassinate the president. They have a little bit more discipline. You think those guys are scared for their life? You think that life is do you think that Secret Service agents on protective detail for a high value individual, whether they be a Secret Service, obviously the government, but even if it's a high value client like a Oprah or somebody like that, you're willing to take a bullet for them? You don't think that life is precious to them? Of course life is precious to them. They're going to do everything they can to stay alive. But the Secret Service doesn't just shoot at people. He could be part of a larger conspiracy. We need to talk to him. So let's neutralize him and bring him in for interrogation. You just shot him in the head. Now he's, we can't question. So
local police are allowed to kill you.
The local police are not allowed to kill you.
Well, they get away with it all the time.
It seems that the local police have a much broader. The excuses available to them to get out of consequence are wider. They have broader protections from the people they serve because the people they serve allow them to get away with it at the end of the day. So that's why I use that as an example. We need more of you're done. We need more done. And stuff would start working right because expectations would be lifted. Expectations in school would be lifted. When we went to school, there was no excuse. There was no excuse. Period. Mr. McCauley, where's your homework? You were lucky if you got an That the meant you were trying to come up with an excuse. You were cut off at the pass in mid-speech.
I forgot it. I left it home. That didn't ever work.
Well, you stay in for recess and lunch and think about that. Bring me my homework from yesterday and today. You better not come back in this class without your homework.
Oh my goodness.
And
I'd go back home before I got to school. I would be late to school to go back home for my homework before I went to school without my homework.
Because there was a consequence and you didn't want to have to deal with that. And kids understood that. There's a consequence when you do something wrong. We've removed consequence from society. So people get away with whatever they want at this point. It is off the chain. It's off the chain.
There are no consequences.
There are no consequences.
No.
It didn't get there all at once. It got there over a course of time. So now people can do whatever they want. It's
What
madness.
happened? What do you think happened? Why did we lose consequences? Why did consequences disappear?
That's a great question. I don't know.
And when did it disappear?
It disappeared between, I guess there's several social things that have happened. A gradual breakdown. You remove. There's some who will say it went back to taking prayer out of school. You take prayer out of school, and of course, you eventually remove the sense of God out of school. And God is like the supreme being to whom everybody got to answer to. At least you're thinking that way. And so, you swore an oath before God. So once you take any level of accountability out, then it starts to go downhill. Then you had the 60s, Camelot, Kingdom Lost with Kennedy. Then you had Martin Luther King. Then you had the other Kennedy brother, Bobby. And then it's just this. Then you had the anti-war movement. And then you had the hippies and the peace movement. And
give them another chance.
Give them another chance. And
give them another chance.
And it's a gradual slide to where things become less communal and more individual. Instead of being a community of individuals, we're just now individuals. And everything is focused on me. And you have situational ethics, where the situation determines the ethical approach. And now there's no standard. It's whatever I think the standard is. So whoever the biggest bully in the room is, that's the bully that gets their way. And law stops having an effect. And anytime you see injustice, then the law starts to be diminished. So you see people not being treated fairly. One person gets one sentence, another person gets another sentence. And it doesn't seem to have an effect all at once. But over time,
back in the day, when they were chasing us down and they were still hanging people, and we had more order in some respects then than we do now. I just think that is so weird. I could remember acting as though respectful to any adult, regardless of what color they were, or if it was an adult, you respected them. You called them Mr.
Absolutely.
The person might have said to you the N-word to you, and they might have been white, but they were adults. You didn't say nothing to them. You walked away. My mother always told me, "You take care of the children, I'll take care of the adults." Mm-hmm. She always said that. So they would take care of it. But the person who might have said it did not mistreat me, did not treat me mean, might have taken me in the store and bought me a candy bar. Do you know what I mean? It was a different kind of they said, "Well, we don't like black people." But I still got in the car and went and had ice cream, and so it was a totally different kind of situation than it is right now. Well, we were trying to get rid of that, and did we get rid of it? No, we didn't get rid of it. We made it different, but
we pushed it underground.
Yeah,
we made it socially unacceptable for people to express the way they feel,
and they forced people the way they feel. Right now, they have to hide it.
So they hide it, right?
but they
still feel the same way.
They still feel it, and then there's a resentment, and they teach their children.
Right.
I'll say his name, Mr. Feeney, and he had Mr. and Mrs. Feeney had 3 children, and we were in the project, and all the boys played together. When the oldest boy, Mr. Feeney's oldest boy, got to be 12 or 13 years old, he said, "You can no longer play with us." He could no longer play with the guys. So they said, "Oh, Ray can't play with us anymore." We said, "Why?" Mr. Feeney said it's time for him not to play with us. It wasn't, Mr. Feeney wasn't mean to us, to the boys. He wasn't, it was just his belief that it was time. He wasn't disrespectful to my parents or us or anything. There was some kind of feeling he had or belief that at a certain age he had to split between the black boys. He could no longer play with the black boys. I don't know what that feeling was, but that must have happened to a lot of people. But they didn't disrespect us. We still shared sugar. If I didn't have sugar, or if my mother didn't have sugar, or if my mother didn't have it, they still went to each other's houses. But this was this thing. I used to think it was a secret thing. Why? Because I didn't, as a child, understand that.
Well, there are social constructs. Some of them are more beneficial than others, and some of them are downright dastardly.
But it wasn't mean. They weren't mean.
Right. I mean, there's people now that you may not hang out with, because, and not that you would be mean to them or wouldn't do something with them or for them or help them in any way, but they're not the kind of people you would hang out with. So you don't. It doesn't mean you don't like them, but we're not people of the same quote unquote type. And that separation sometimes becomes socially unacceptable, but it's done across the board with folks. There's a social separation between men and women when it comes to using bathroom facilities. That doesn't mean men and women don't get along or can't go anywhere together, but there's some things you don't do together. That's a pretty common thing that people pretty much understand. But, black and white, there's this notion that because you're black and because you're white, you must get along. Well, there may be other reasons why people don't get along. Not the fact that they're black or white. And then you have some people who are just prejudiced. And so let them be prejudiced. Those are folks you don't need to be around. If that's who they are, let them be that and let them be by themselves. And, Mr. So-and-so lives up on the hill. He doesn't talk to anybody because he's prejudiced. And he doesn't bother anyone.
Leave him alone.
Leave him alone. He need to respect us. He's not bothering us. Why? So when you force people to behave in a way that is inconsistent with who they are, they will rebel. And so if you got a whole household of black folk and white folk living in their little separate houses, and Spanish speaking folk and Asian folk, and these 4 people all living in their house, and they don't necessarily go places together because they have customs and cultural differences that are not necessarily embraced or appreciated by the other. There are things that they all do together, but there are some things they don't do together. But now some guy comes along, writes a law and says, you all got to do everything together. Well, I don't really like to do that. But, don't say anything because we're going to be in polite company. And then you teach your kids this. And the kids at some point get to a place where they're like, well, I'm not going to be hypocritical. I've been to...
Yeah, why are all the black folks sitting at the same table?
Right.
I never understood that. Because
they have things in common. One, they look like each other. They have same cultural nuances that are pretty much similar. There's a sense of security and safety in numbers. You're not alone,
Right.
And you have an instant identifier. That don't mean that if they go a little bit deeper, that they don't have something that's not going to click. But on the surface, so there's ways that we look for validation, comfort. What group can I assimilate into that I'll be accepted for who I am? All these decisions are being made instantly. And okay, you drive through. This is unless you're black, you have no reference to this. Now you may have a cultural nuance to this in your own culture, but black people have a very significant thing about them. They're brown, and so you can see them anywhere. And so if you're driving someplace and you don't see no black folk, you become very, very aware of it very, very quickly. Yeah. And so when you pull into the gas station and you see someone come out of the little, out of the place where you go pay for it, and they're black, you're like, oh, okay, I'm good. And you get out the car and go in. You feel like you're not in a strange place. There's just something that says, oh, okay. And then if you're driving around, you start seeing black people like coming out the house or getting out their car. You say, oh, okay, well, okay, this is okay. Because there are some communities that you're not welcome in, and you want to get through them. I'm not the guy that's going to get out the car and start protesting. Yeah. That's not me. There's some people who think that those communities need to start letting black folk live there. Go get you some money and move on in there. Buy a house. And go move in there. They don't have to. But that's where, people are.
No.
People are people. But I've been to more than a few dinners in various families where everyone at the dinner is black. And they are running everyone and their mother's uncle that ain't black into and under the ground. Talk about everybody. Now the kids hear this, and the kids are like, at some point they're going to grow up and they're not going to be hypocritical like their parents. When they go out, they're not going to pretend to like people. They're going to be real. Mm-hmm. And that's where we are now in America. People are being real. So this whole notion of, hate seems to be just coming out of the woodwork. No. Hate's not coming out of the woodwork. It's always been there. What you're experiencing is the 100, the real. Instead of living in a fantasy land where, everyone's getting along. Everyone is not getting along. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are now. If folk would have not meddled, by now we might actually be getting along. For real. Getting along. Not fake getting along. Because someone came along and made it socially unacceptable for me to express how I really feel. That's why I'm a free speech absolutist. Tell me how you feel. I don't have a problem. I have no problem at all. Then I can exercise my option and not be around you. I would rather know that you don't like me. And then we can agree that we don't like each other and still do stuff. And at least we know where we are. That don't mean we can't be productive, help.
That's the Southern way. I don't like you, but Jim Bob, we're going up here. We're going to do this and bring back the thing. But I don't like blah, 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 blah. Right. That's people always said the North is different. Down South, you know where you stand. Up North, no, you don't. You don't know where you stand because they're going to pat you on the back and pat you on the head and smile in your face and take your job and run over your kids by accident and stuff. And they're not going to say a word, but they're going to still be grinning. At the end of the day, they still be grinning. You gotta watch them Northerners.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta watch them Northerners.
Ida says they used to make you write, I will, whatever, 100 times. Remember that?
I do.
I will not be late for class. I will not be late. I will not talk in class. I will not talk. It better not spell anything wrong.
I never had to do that. I was one of them.
You a good kid.
Unfortunately, that is, I'm saying unfortunately because sometimes you're too good. You're too quiet. You're too agreeable. Of course, your mind is not always agreeable, but your actions are. So yeah, no, I never had to do that. My gosh,
I had to do that just one time. I was the kid that only had to do. If I ever did anything, it was only once. Because I was a real quick study. I could avoid this by doing what I'm told. That's always been my mindset. Okay. Once I got in trouble, I never got in trouble for that ever again.
Oh, I could see other people get in trouble, and I wasn't going there.
Well, that too, right?
Yes.
But sometimes you don't really think, But once you get in trouble, some folk don't mind getting in trouble. That I never understood.
Getting same trouble over and over and over and over.
That don't
again.
make no sense to me.
Yes. I had a couple of friends like that. Basically, boys. Boys got in trouble. Girls didn't get in that much trouble. Maybe one or two. You might meet a girl that would get in trouble all the time. But most of the time, it wasn't the girls. It was always the boys. Now I think it's kind of changed.
Yeah, it's changed. Girls get in trouble now. Girls will beat you up.
That's right. You didn't see girls.
Girls will punch you in your face.
Right. That's right. They will hurt you.
Yes.
They're worse than boys. They're worse than boys. When they fight, they're worse than boys. And then they're gonna keep that grudge. The boys still let it go, but not a girl. She gonna keep that grudge for a while. Boys have a fight and then they're best friends down the road. Well, it's not that easy with girls. Girls will hold a grudge for a while.
I do bear a grudge. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it's a shame. It really is a shame. I think one of the biggest problems we have is that we meddle. People meddle. They meddle in other folks' affairs. I think if people mind their business, if they were more attentive to minding their business, life for everybody would be better.
Well, I have this total line. Have I crossed the line? I have this imaginary line that sometimes when I put my foot over, I said, oh, I better step back and get in line. Even little stupid things that other people prefer, but you prefer it the other way, so you're going to do it your way and ignore, and it's their mess, their stuff, and you're going to sort of command them to do it your way. Sometimes you got to step back in the line and look at them and say, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. But you got to keep your mouth shut because it's not you. It's them. It's not, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's them. That's the way they want it. So let them have it their way. It's their stuff. It doesn't affect you whatsoever. So let it be. So I try to do that. But I sometimes I jump into a lot of doo-doo. But I think a lot of people do. Their opinions, my opinion is the better opinion. That's not what you're thinking. You just want them to do it your way. And people have said, she thinks she knows everything, but you're not thinking, you're thinking you're helping them. You're being.
Yeah, let me help you with that.
Let me help you with that. Yeah. But sometimes it's not a help. It's not a help.
Yeah. Yeah, lady, actually yesterday I had coffee with somebody yesterday. And we were coming out of the coffee place. And the woman asked if either of us knew how to change a tire. Now, that was an interesting question. Because, of course, I do know how to change a tire. But I told her I'm not really good at that. And so
She had a flat tire.
she needed to change the tire. And a 25-year-old me would have jumped right out there. But for the first time, it occurred to me that I'm not 25 and that I'm 62 going on 63. And I'll be out there trying to change that tire and pull my back or something like that. And now I'm jacked up big time. And I remember the last time I physically changed a tire. And I couldn't get the lug nuts off. Henry Brown got the lug nuts off. I'm literally standing on the little crowbar trying to get the thing off, and I couldn't get them off. They were on there. And he came and just popped them off of there like there was nothing. And I didn't have the physical strength.
You stood out.
I'm standing on there.
You stood out and it still wouldn't move.
Still would move. Yeah, that's how I met Reverend Henry Brown. That's how I met him outside Harvard Public Access Television Station. He was coming there to take a workshop, I think, and he was going there he walked down the street. He says, "You having trouble with that little fella?" You know, something big, muscular people like to say to skinny folk like myself. You know, you having trouble with that little fella? Yeah, actually, I am. Yeah, let me give you a hand with that. And he just leaned into it. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah,
bam,
but
bam,
look
bam,
at the
bam.
weight difference.
Yeah, I'm standing on it. You know, lucky I didn't break the lug nut, but it wasn't enough force to break anything because with my little narrow walk, featherweight. So
I have changed the tire when my kids were little. I have changed the tire, but I wouldn't like to do it it was not a pleasant thing because I had to remember what my dad said to me. You have to put it under here, where you put the thing.
the jack.
The jack, you got to put
Yeah,
the
if you
jack
don't
in
do
the
it right,
you got to
changing
put the jack in the right
yeah.
place. And so my dad taught me how to do that. And then I changed the tire, but I think I've only done it once or twice, and my kids were really little, and I had no choice. They were just the three of us, so I had no choice. But
in case of an extreme emergency, like on the back road someplace, I know how to change it. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I know how to change a tire. But you still need the proper tools, and you need to be able to physically get the tire off the car.
Yes, and sometimes that's difficult.
Difficult.
Getting those lug nuts.
Yeah.
I remember in the 50s, we were coming from Rockville in the back roads, and that all these houses weren't there. There was like woods on both sides, and we were coming up probably Ellington Road. And my father had a flat tire, and it was late at night, and it was dark, and my father got the tools out, and I don't know if he was having a problem, but this car came by, and the car stopped, and a man got out of the car. It was a black man, got out of the car. He said to my father, "If I didn't know you was black, I'd have never stopped this car. Good thing you was black." He probably didn't say black. He probably said colored back in them days. And he helped my father change his tire. But see, God said that man
Right.
It's because, and that's what he said. And that's the first time I ever heard anything like that. That's why I never forgot the remark, because my parents never said anything about black or white or nothing. They just said people. I mean, they never said anything. So when that man said that, I said, because he was black, because I said, wow. I didn't understand back then, because I was 8, 9 years old. I didn't understand.
It wasn't until the OJ trial that I started to see the difference. When the verdict came out, that's when it occurred to me.
I was totally shocked with that verdict. I was just totally shocked.
I was, in my eyes, it seemed like OJ was innocent. And a huge debate erupted at the station, and I couldn't understand. And it seemed like it was along the color line. And that's...
Yes.
And then, of course, it erupted all across the country. And that's when it became apparent to me that this is... Because my mom and dad made a conscious decision during the 60s not to show... We didn't see anything, like on the news reports or anything like that, about any kind of riots or disruption. And we moved out of Philadelphia. We were way out in the country, what people would consider country. Still, I guess right now it's a outlying town, or maybe it's too far away to be a suburban town. But I guess you might consider it suburban. But we moved to Bucks County, and so we were very insulated. Mm-hmm. And they made a conscious decision. In fact, I need to talk to my dad about that I'd like to get him on videotape talking about that. Because I'd like to know what their thinking was in detail. Because my mother, of course, has passed away, but it would be interesting to get his perspective on that. But they made a conscious decision. Because I think, people see that, and it stays in your mind, and that becomes your reference point. That's your frame by which you see everything. And you don't want to see people in their worst light, because that's now how you recognize them. Everyone is not like this. Those people are like that. And those people are the ones acting out that way. So those are the folks that need to be held accountable. You can't hold accountable everyone for the errors of someone. And so that's how we were kind of brought up and raised. So, I'm much, much more aware of racial prejudice and the separation, of course, now. But back when I was in my early 20s and stuff like that, it didn't seem to be as bad to me. But I was unaware. I was just unaware.
We felt it. I felt it. I've always felt it.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I first started school, when I was around white folks, I felt it. Even integrated church, I felt it. I didn't know how to verbalize it. All I knew is now that I felt it. And when I asked my parents, when I got grown, why didn't you ever tell us? Why didn't you ever prepare us? Because I had no words to express. I knew that, I remember going into church and knowing that this lady wasn't like everybody else. That this particular lady, I didn't know why. I just knew that she was. And then when I became 18 and the whole church just blew up racially, then I realized what I was feeling about her. Mm-hmm. Because she was the leader of all of that blow up. Then I knew what it was. But my parents, and I think parents should prepare you, because we have to go out and go to work or go to school, and we're going to bump into these things, and we need to know what we're bumping into, and how they would handle it, and how they would tell us to handle that. We had to learn that all by ourselves after years of getting bumped around. How you handle something like this, because they didn't prepare us to handle that. And in Westbrook Village, everybody was there. Mm-hmm. All races was there. I mean, and we all lived together. Even though some of us were racist, we all lived together in a respectful way. Mm-hmm. So, parents needed to tell. I had to warn my children about something, because if I hadn't, there were sometimes my sons would have been in big trouble if I hadn't talked to them.
See, I've and I think my daughters, obviously they are aware of their color, but we don't contextualize things in black, white, or Spanish speak this and that. People are people, and we were raised that you are a unique individual. If you ever have an opportunity to lead, never follow.
It's different. And
so that's how
it's different for boys, easier for girls. Different for boys. Even teenage boys are gonna have it hard with the police or anything, white or black. Because they do.
See, I never interacted with the police.
You have to direct them. Well, you're
because they were. It just the idea, the notion. There was never a reason or a cause. We wouldn't see. I would never see the police. I would never see the police. In fact, one of my best friends, Kenny Jenkins, I'll never forget when one night coming home from the TV station, I was dropping him off. Collins Street. There's one of the cross streets from Collin. I can't think of which one it is.
Sigourney?
Below Sigourney, toward the city.
Homestead? Asylum?
No. Sigourney runs across Collins.
Right.
So if you drop down one block on Collins Street, one of those cross streets, you know where the old house is, the castle-like house is leaning.
Yeah, Maple. Starts with not Maple. Not Niles. I forgot the name of it.
I can't think of the name of the street.
Near the park. Is it near the park?
No.
Down the other way?
If you go down Collins Street, start off at Collins Street on Garden.
On Garden, okay.
And you go all the way up to past the hospital.
Woodland.
Woodland.
Right.
Those side streets coming down.
May Street.
Not May. May is above. Okay. Keep coming down toward Hartford. So you're heading down Hartford. You go cross May Street, cross Sigourney Street, and then the next street, that intersection. There's an arch over the street. I think the arch is still there.
Arch over the street?
Or to the side. But there's an old castle house. Looks like a castle on the corner.
Okay. I don't know.
I can't think of the name of that street. Anyhow,
yes.
It's a one-way street.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a one-way street going from Asylum to Sargent. It ends at Sargent Street. It begins at Asylum.
Okay.
And I was coming up Collins Street, and I didn't want to go around the block. So I backed down the street.
Oh, that's near you.
So I pulled out, and then I backed down the street. Of course, as I'm starting to back down the street, a cop comes, and I'm backing down, and he's doing like this. And I just pulled over so that Kenny could get out. And so, of course, the cop puts his lights on. And I start looking for my registration in the glove compartment. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget this. Kenny had Chinese food, so he's eating this. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm eating the food before they shoot us." He said, "You're going to get us killed." Wait, he's going to shoot us through the window. What are you doing? I says, I'm getting my registration out. Clearly, he's going to ask me for it. I had no idea. No. It would. The last thing on my mind was that I was doing things that could put in, and he's in there having a fit. And so the police officer, he says, "Is there a reason you can't drive around the block like regular people?" I says, "Well, no, officer. I mean, he lives right here, so I just back it down the street. You know, it didn't make sense to go around the block. It's 1:00 in the morning. That was coming from the TV station." He says at 1:00 in the morning, the rules are the same as they are during the day. From now on, drive around the block and drive up like normal people. And he got back in his cruiser and went about his business. And Kenny went into this long, emotional thing about how, they shoot black people in the city and this, that, and the third. And you can get us killed, rooting through you. They think you're looking for a gun. That's justifiable cause for them to pull you out the car and shoot you. And we will both be dead because you got stupid reaching through the glove compartment. And that was the first time it occurred to me that could be dangerous. Because I never interface with the police. So, to a large degree, you're the byproduct of what you're exposed to. If you're exposed to the police being bad and mean, then that's how you think of them. I never thought of the police as being like that. Because that's not my experience with the police. It's not my friend's experience with the police.
As a child, as growing up in Westbrook Village, we never saw police either. But other projects, they saw the police all the time. And of course, once you get out of the project, you're gonna interface with the police at some point. Mm-hmm. You're in the city at some point. My son, who now lives in Florida, says when the police stops you, put both hands on the steering wheel and don't move. That's what he says. Put your hands on the steering wheel and don't move.
No. See, I was, and my experience growing up was not one of prejudice or anything like that. I was the only minority in my graduating class of 425. The principal for my school came from Pennsylvania to Hartford to Metropolitan AME Zion Church for my wedding in 1984, for my first marriage. Blaine A. Strunk was his name. I sent him an invitation, and he came to the wedding. Brought me a bottle of dandelion wine, because he used to make dandelion wine. And so my experience at school was, I never was called the N-word. I was never treated badly. I was not picked on. I went to school. I had friends. I wasn't told I couldn't play. That was not my experience. This is 1979 when I graduated. Mm-hmm. And so my whole time from 8th grade to graduation, 8th grade, South Junior High School. From 8th grade to graduation, I never had any problems. Never. Not once.
And you were the only person of color in your class.
I was the only minority in my graduating class. I wasn't the only person of color in the school. There were about 5 or 6 of us. I see. But in my graduating class, in all of my classes, in my English class, civics class, science, math, industrial arts, because we had wood shop and metal shop. Mm-hmm. I got one spanking in school. I got one spanking with the paddle. That was in wood shop. Mr. Heinrich. That was in wood shop. 3 of us got spanked. I wasn't the only one spanked because I was the black kid. I didn't get more of a spanking than the white kids did. It wasn't systemic racism in the school that spanked me. It was me horse playing in the wood shop where the lathes and the cutting saws and all the drills were, we were horse playing because, you had to sweep up at the end of shop, you swept. So we were racing, like we were racing, like, boys, race cars. And we all came to the intersection. Wasn't an intersection, but the aisles where the machines were, and we crashed. And all of the sawdust, kids, we got hit. One spank each. That was the last time I played in the wood shop. And rightly so. My thumb, my finger, I was making a skateboard and it slipped. Oh. And my finger went right into the little router. Mm-hmm. That take me to the hospital. So the rationale and the reason, this is not a place to play. You could get hurt in industrial arts, because people went from there to work at the Gauge. They made gauges in town. The Gauge was a big place where folk worked. So it was a blue collar working class town. Mm-hmm. Percy, Pennsylvania, Sellersville. But so it was a working class town. And folk, I didn't have that. I didn't have a negative experience. I can appreciate that people who have had negative experiences sets the context of how they see things. But everything is not the worst. You can't judge people for where they were at their worst. And to me, people who are racist are manifesting a negative behavior. Because that's what they know. So until something happens internally within them, that's who they're gonna be. So okay. You live with it. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. It would be nice. It would be better for them if they saw things differently. But as long as what they do doesn't directly impact me, all right. Church folk impact me. Anyone that's in a position of decision making at any level impacts us all. Whether they be Catholic, whether they be Satanists, whether they be black, whether they be white, whether they be Spanish speaking, everyone impacts someone. So the idea that because they're white, I'm impacted in a negative way, I understand that. I could make that argument. But in my world, I impact me by my decisions, not someone else by theirs.
Do you think that America will ever recover from racism? From this divide, from leaving some out and
no.
Some? Do you think that we will ever? People tell me about countries who, when one place, Japan, in Japan they love black people, blah 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 blah, and telling me about countries that black people go that they are really received in a positive way. And so there are places where it maybe doesn't exist. I think it does exist in Japan, but it doesn't exist. We think that America will ever come to that point where we look at each other as people and
I think
Americans and not black, white, Asian, just look at each other as people.
I think there are people in America who are at that place. They've been there. They will continue to be there. But America as a whole profits too much out of division. The capitalist society profits too much from it. Political power is derived from it, from people being separated into groups. And the black and white is right now in this country is a default separator. And with the wealth of the country, this is just my opinion, not necessarily the truth. With the wealth of the country having been established off of the labor of black people brought here from Africa so that they could be exploited, their labor, human machines. There's no way for that to be undone. And it is the context which everything is now seen through. And it's never dealt with. So it always stays it stays under the surface. It's like a nice calm sea, but under the water, there's rocks that'll rip your ship open and cause you to sink. And so they like calm waters to pretend there's no dangers under the surface. And the racial divide in our country is there. That people can't have a rational, reasonable discussion because they're too busy trying to impose their worldview on someone else rather than to accept that that is where those people are and to move on. In time, people will change because they see it as a necessity. So like my sister's first husband is darker than I am. But all the other guys she has after her divorce are all white. My daughter-in-law's white. My son, my oldest son, wife is white. So he doesn't see her as white. He sees her as his wife. My daughter Jessica, husband is black. So people resonate and see, people fall in love with who they fall in love with. Mm-hmm. Love doesn't see color. It sees the object of their love. So, and so people see color, and the ones that do, to me, have a marked disadvantage. It's a marked disadvantage. It's like getting in the ring with Yukon women and you're an opposing team. If you see them as Yukon women coached by Gino Auriemma, no one can beat them, then don't come to the game because you're going to lose. What you see are giants in the land and you see no way to defeat them. So now they set the context of your existence. Everyone to be, but guess what? UConn can be beaten, and they have been beaten.
Yes.
And the people that beat them don't think that way. And so what? They're UConn. What? They don't dribble ball like the rest of us. What? Watch what they do. They can be beat. But you have to think that way. I meet so many people who their mind is crippled by racism. And they're not the racist. Now, some might suggest that they've got some racial issues because it's kind of a reverse thing, but I don't accept that. They are beset by someone else's hatred. That I think that's to me it's fascinating that someone would allow themselves to be beset by someone who is hateful across the room. And the only time I think about them is when I'm either in their presence or at home. Now, how are you going to take this person home with you? They don't live with you, but they're in your head. And they're at home affecting your quality of life because you're giving them that power and authority in your mind. And they everything in your life is passed off to someone who's quote unquote white because they're white or because they're Hispanic. Because as quietly as is kept in Hartford, there's a huge divide between blacks and Spanish speaking, between blacks and the West Indian community. Hartford got some serious problems underneath the water surface. No one talks about them, but it ain't just a black and white thing. The black and white thing becomes a convenient way to talk about those things in ways that other folk don't have to talk about other issues. But no one's really dealing with the problems and the issues that they have. And rather than to deal with those issues, it's easier to point them out and talk about it and make it someone else's bigger problem. But if it affects you, then it is your problem. What power do you have to control a thing other than yourself? I'm the only one that can control what goes on in my head. No one else can control that unless I let them. And so it becomes a way of thinking, or to me, it's a false construct. There's people who don't like folk because they're black. There's some places you wind up going in the woods, you might be swinging from a tree. Stay out the woods. You pull up to a driveway and it got a Confederate flag. Ain't no need to drive up the driveway and ask them why they have a Confederate flag on the front lawn.
Keep moving.
Keep on moving. I don't care why you got a flag. You come to my house and tell me to get rid of the Last Call magazine? Everybody has things that someone else may not like. I got Bibles in my house. There are people who are highly offended by the Bible. Highly offended by the Bible. Highly.
Too bad.
Right. In fact, there's a famous drummer in this city. It's not Brother Aku. Brother Abu. So I had to put that out there because he's the most famous drummer in this city. It's not Abu. There's another drummer, and we were at an event, a funeral, and he was there, and I said, "Well, God bless you, brother." He says, "I'd appreciate it if you don't refer to me with that kind of a thing of God bless." And he let me know straight out that he felt that Christianity and the Bible were highly offensive. All right, we cool. And I've worked with him on several occasions since then. Talked to him last week. We can respectfully disagree on some things. We ain't got to be enemies because we disagree on something.
Right.
You know. You can set me on fire and I'm not going to deny the Bible.
Not going to deny what?
The Bible.
Oh, yes.
Or Jesus. That's where I am. But other people who don't agree with that somehow are beneath me or anathema. They have to be set on, we want to kill them because they don't agree. But that's where people are with race. And when they get to that level, their whole headset around race becomes of religious fervor. Their religion is to hate other people because of their race. They worship it. They think about it. They give homage to it. They support it. They support others that support it. They seek comfort from one another in the struggle. It's
a religion.
It's a religion. And it's an attempt to appease, I guess, the maker because you're fighting this injustice that can only be imposed on me if I let you. The fact that I can't get a job because I'm black is no different than I can't get a job because the guy is hiring his son. There are 1,001 reasons why someone might give the job to somebody else. Being black is just one of them. Right, so. Now, if the guy says, I'm not hiring you because you're black, well, now you got some resources. The law says that's not acceptable. If he tells you that, depending upon where it is, he could be in big trouble. Now you have to determine how far you want to take that. Quite frankly, I don't want to work for them. It's not a worthwhile use of my time. Let me know now. Just too many places black folk can work happy. It'd be rewarded than to work for someone that don't like it. Suppose I was skinny.
Suppose you were skinny?
I asked my wife, do I look thin in this? Here we go. You look thin in no matter what you wear because you are skinny, Stan. I try to imagine what I must look like walking down the street, because sometimes I see some skinny people. I say, now that's a skinny person. And you're not?
Stan. The first time I ever saw you was what, in the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
The 90s, the 90s? When I came up to the station, you were taping me for storytelling. And the first time I ever saw you, I said, woo!
I ain't never seen no one that
I ever
saw. I ain't never seen no one that skinny.
I really have. How many people are skinnier than you?
I don't know. I don't see me, and sometimes I can see that I'm skinny, but sometimes, only sometimes.
People will say, Cleo, I always see myself as fat, very fat, and people say, but Cleo, you're not fat. I don't see where you're fat, but I can't see nothing else. I see this, so I'm just trying to not to be fat and all my life. So I try not to think about it anymore, but that's all I see. You're skinny. You're the thinnest person that I know. I don't know anyone thinner than you.
Well, there may be people who don't want skinny people working for him. Well, he can't have him here. He's weak. He looks weak. So, I mean, who knows? So, I wouldn't know if someone said, well, we can't hire you because you're too skinny. Then I might think, But people don't generally tell you why. I don't think people are told, I'm not hiring you because you're black. I think we think that's the reason. Because if they actually said it, that would be a problem.
Right.
So I choose.
But we really don't know all the people that we say that don't hire us because we're black. That's not everybody's reason.
That is not everybody's reason.
That's not everybody's reason. Of course, that sometimes we say that. I don't know why. Do we say it because it makes us feel better that this is unjust, or I don't know. But we say it a lot.
I know a guy that didn't know anything about television, came to Harvard Public Access Television, took the workshop, and got hired at Channel 3 for a job that I was told I was unqualified for.
Well, now I would say that was...
Now, that I would say was because I was black. This is many, many years ago. That I would say was because I was black. But Channel 3 had black people at that time. So he may have had a skill set that I was unaware of. And my assumption was. So we can internalize things as to why I didn't. But in my mind, that was why. And I wasn't dismissive of it. Well, if that's how they are, I don't want to work there. And my cough button. I wouldn't want to work someplace if in my mind the people there were like that. I wouldn't want to work there. I don't want to work someplace where it's uncomfortable.
See,
I wouldn't take the job.
I never thought that, and that's a good mindset. I took a job as a director of religious education in a church where when I was interviewed, I didn't like them. I didn't like it. I was uncomfortable with it. I didn't like it. And yet I took the job. And I didn't like it from never. And finally I did quit. Because it wasn't the place or the job for me to be in that place. And I knew that from the beginning. But I thought I could overcome all of that. But no, that first impression and that interviews are very important because it wasn't a good place for me. And I wish that I had felt better about the place. And I have had jobs where I felt better about the place, but that was the only job that I really felt I shouldn't take this job, and I took it. And it was unpleasant from the beginning.
Well, Dale Ezra. I went to school, and he was an instructor. He's one of the founders of the school, the Upper Buck School of Aviation Maintenance Technology. He was the head administrator, and he used to tell us, and this was in 11th grade, because I went there for 11th and 12th grade, and then when I graduated, I went there post-secondary, after, to acquire my AMP license, airframe power plant. And then after I got out of there, I came up here to Pratt & Whitney. But he used to say, and this is where the mindset comes from him, don't work anywhere that if they would fire you on Friday, you wouldn't go back on Monday and volunteer. If they fire you on Friday, you'd go back Monday and volunteer. They wouldn't even have to pay you because you like the job that much.
Because you like the job that much, you'd
Right.
go back and volunteer.
Right.
Even if they fired you.
Right. Because you spend most of your waking hours, once you become an adult, at work. So don't work anywhere that you don't like. It's not fair to anybody. It's most certainly not fair to yourself, but it's not fair to the people that you even work with.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just going to be miserable. And all you bring is misery to the job. You bring misery. You're miserable. You make other people around you miserable. If you don't like a place, leave. You're not on a mission sent by God to change the culture of the place. Because you're not going to.
A lot of people who complain about their jobs are not leaving. They're gonna wait there.
They're there being miserable.
They're miserable. I remember when I was working for American Airlines. And I do have to say, American Airlines was probably the best job I ever had. As far as fair play, of course, employees. But I didn't like what I was doing, and I couldn't get to the next step or a lateral step, and I got tired of what I was doing. Everybody around me, I don't know one person who didn't complain about American Airlines, the rest of the American Airlines. Most of them, I can't say all, most of them complained. Worse than me. I left. I said, I can't, I'm going to stay here for the rest of my, And it was a good job. and I left American Airlines, and most of my friends who were at American Airlines retired at American Airlines. And their complaints were valid, but they stayed, and I left. And I often wonder, why did I'm the one that left, and all of them stayed. I didn't want to be miserable for 20 years.
Now, my question is, were they miserable or were they complainers?
They could have been just complainers.
Because lots of people like to complain.
They could have been just complaining. I liked American Airlines, but I wanted to do something else, and I couldn't move. I couldn't seem to move. So I said, I'm not. They won't move me. I'm out. So I left and started my first business. but I wasn't going to stay there forever. But probably if I had stayed there, maybe I'd have moved eventually. I have no idea, but I wasn't willing to wait 15 years, or so to move. And my friends, they stayed there and retired from there. And what's the difference? I don't know the difference between just a complainer or someone who's really miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know that, but
yeah,
they probably were just miserable. I mean, just complainers. I was miserable. I was miserable. I didn't think I could stand it another day.
Yeah, sometimes people are just... Now, you don't want to be miserable. Complain. Sometimes people complain. They vent. There's things they don't like, but it's not enough to move them out the job. They don't necessarily hate the job. They may hate certain aspects of it. But if you're really genuinely miserable at the job, do yourself a favor and go find something else to do. Because you're miserable. But that's what he used to say. Don't work someplace. He said if you can find a job that you love, then of course in the theory you'll never work a day in your life, because every day is a day of
and I did find that job that I loved. And stayed there and gave my time overtime just because you love the job so much. And that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody should love their job.
Everyone should love their job.
Everybody should love their job.
Yeah. Everyone should love their job. Love your job. Love your job. And then everything changes. You're excited about going to work. You feel fulfilled. You want to give more. And you're at peace with yourself, the environment, everything around you. You on the way home, you see things that are nice. You see a pond with ducks swimming in it instead of a guy out hunting, shooting the ducks. You see what you look for. If you're miserable, all you see is misery, because misery likes company, and misery has a way of hunting down misery. Where are other people miserable like I am? I want to see some misery. Oh, there's misery. Are you miserable too? Well, we got to do something about this misery. No, everyone there ain't miserable.
Get rid of that person.
Right, they're toxic. They're like, they suck the life out of you. So you can't be miserable. Well, of course you can be miserable. But if miserable people have a propensity to attract misery, because that's who they are. I'm not gonna be miserable because you're miserable. So and you only take so much of that.
But you don't know it's your fault. You don't know you're miserable. A lot of people don't know they're miserable because they bring it on themselves, because that's how they look at things, and they don't see the good things around them until they lose them. When they lose it, then they say, "Oh, I wish I was back such and such a place." But we don't know, do we? We don't know that we're making ourselves miserable. I don't think a lot of people consciously know that. They think the world is the world around them, and everything else is making them miserable. They don't think they may be
unaware of it.
Yeah,
but
I don't think they're aware.
You find what you're looking for. You find what you're looking for. If you go to a town, and it's inevitable. I don't care where the town is. I don't care what kind of people live in the town. You find the kind of people in the town that are like yourself. Mm-hmm. And if all you can find in town are hateful, spiteful people, either you're not looking in the right place, or maybe it's a hateful, spiteful town. You need to leave. But the chances are everyone in that town is not hateful, mean, and spiteful.
And you're not going to change the hateful, spiteful people.
Absolutely not going to change them.
Change the hateful, spiteful people. Just move on.
Right.
Because you're not going to change them.
It's inevitable.
Yep.
If you push up against the miserable, spiteful people,
they're going to push back.
They will push back, and you'll be hanging from a tree.
Yeah.
Either literally,
Yes.
or you're out of a job,
Yes.
or you're excommunicated from the church or the group. If you're the one pointing out how bad everything is, the system, whatever the system is, will push back. And you're always the one that's going to be on the outside looking in. That's just life.
That's life.
That's life. That's life. So, you go find your own little pond.
Well, that's not how I was brought up. You do this, you do that, and live happily ever after. You do this, you do that, you do this, and you live happily ever after.
Well, there's nothing wrong with happily ever after.
No, it's not realistic.
My mother used to have a sign in her she had this garden room that where she had all her plants. We called it the plant room, but it was like a little greenhouse. It wrapped around the house, and she had on the wall, people tell me I live in my own world. But the nice thing is that everyone there loves me. So, there's nothing wrong with living in your own world.
Nothing
Nothing at all.
Nope.
No enemies or mean-spirited people in your world. Amen. Well, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's a beautiful day out there, that's for sure.
Yes, a nice, beautiful breeze out there.
Man.
Yes, it is.
Gorgeous.
Nice day.
Well, my kids are back in school. I was thinking of going to Ted's, but I can't because I got to pick my children up from school at 2.
Back in school.
Back.
Traffic is heavy again.
Back to the old grind.
Yeah.
School time. Picking up my girls from school. Yeah. At least they get off at the same time now. My one daughter takes the bus to school. And so I pick up the one daughter. Then we drive to the bus stop. And then the other daughter's there in like 10 minutes.
So that's nice.
It's nice. So it reduced my child pickup run from an hour and a half to 2 hours to 30 minutes.
Oh, that's
and that
nice.
is a great gift.
That, yes. Well, I mean, your car talk is cut. Your conversations after. Do you have? I don't know if you and your daughters have the conversation.
No, conversations reserved for mom.
Oh.
They can't wait to get home to mom and unload.
They don't unload
they
you.
come. No. We have general conversations. I'm becoming dad now. When they were younger, it was different. We'd go bike riding and all that kind of stuff all the time. Now they talk about girl things. They don't want to talk to me. So I'm dad. I'm good for transportation. The older they get, the more I'm just, Dad, do you really have to talk? I'm trying to read. They haven't said that, but it's coming. It's coming. Yeah.
Oh, well.
But that's okay.
Dad's you'll come back again.
Yeah.
When they get older.
Yeah. I just have to be patient. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Miss Cleo, you have a fabulous weekend.
Okay, you too, Stan.
It's always good to see you, and I'll see you next week.
All right. Try to be here.
All right, my friends, we'll see you next time. You all have a great rest of your day. Special thanks to our guests who came in and shared some wisdom with us about business. You all check out those resources and see what you can do to make business happen for you. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.